Coming up on Be Kind, Let's Rewind.
Today we are covering the 1980 movie Airplane.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Slowly you start to realize that the two announcing voices are having an argument.
We both know perfectly well what it is you're talking about. You want me to have an abortion.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gag. He's got his f***ing Lakers shorts and shoes on as he's being pulled out of the cockpit, man.
The one woman starts to panic.
I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone.
And she turns around and lifts up a glass with two lines of on it and freaking just
She did a little bump. You never do blow before? Sometimes your heart stop. It's not back.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Cue music.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
No, sir, I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Welcome to Be Kind, Let's Rewind, the nostalgia podcast no one asked for, with your hosts, Chris, Leaf, and Shadwick.
Really good movie no matter what YouTube says. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Be Kind, Let's Rewind, the nostalgia podcast that no one asked for. Today we are covering the 1980 movie Airplane.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
That's right. So this legendary movie, which I actually just finished the audiobook written by the directors called Surely You Can't Be Serious. Completely amazing audiobook. Has all of our idols, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, actually did voiceovers for the audiobook, like talking about their comments. Weird Al Yankovic is in it. Bill Hader.
Dang.
So this has shaped comedic palettes for a lot of our heroes
and future.
I want to throw one out later on. It's just a theory of mine, but I'm glad you said Trey Parker and Matt Stone, because I noticed something last night when I was watching this, when he kept having his flashbacks from the war.
Yeah,
it always reminded me of the shop teacher when
you screw around too much.
Yeah. But what does his woman call him?
Oh, Richard.
Swingy Richard, higher.
Yeah, those little flashbacks.
Yeah.
Which they're definitely.
No.
They are massive fans of this. So, guys, where do you first remember seeing this? Because this obviously was in 1980, so I doubt we are.
I'll go first.
In diapers?
Last night.
Yep, which is actually pretty shocking to me, but I mean, dude, understandable.
Well, so I'll tell you what it was. My dad hates slapstick comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I mean, like you said, we were little bitty kids when this came out. So
right,
yeah.
With him not liking that kind of comedy and me not being able to make my own decisions, I don't know why.
Not in my house, Shaddy.
Never
in my house.
Never understood why kids couldn't make their own decisions until I had one.
Shaddy, no.
That's what was being said in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Yeah.
I definitely only remember seeing this the first time. Had to have been on TV. Which
Mine was on TV,
heavily
but probably what led you to this, Leaf, was Naked Gun. I saw Naked Gun first, and then when this was on TV, I was like, oh, it's the dude from Naked Gun, which is Leslie Nielsen.
My dad definitely was the opposite of Shadwick's dad. Like, he loves Blazing Saddles, and slapstick comedy is is right up his alley.
You know what? That's a good point. My dad, he really likes Blazing Saddles.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, there is a ton of
this one's a little more. This is wilder than that, though. This is really I can see it.
This is more Monty Pythonish, or Monty Pythonish.
Yeah, it is. And I really feel like this is going to be hit or miss for like the listeners too, because for me, I'm not a big puns guy. I don't really like that. I don't think it's funny necessarily. And it's just, there's tons of one-liners in this that to me don't necessarily really land. Just, it's not my type of comedy.
In Airplane
Specifically. Yeah. Not Blazing Saddles.
And I mean, like it's a parody. It's one of the first, to my knowledge, one of the first parody movies that kind of did this, where they really parodied a whole bunch of genres. And I'll get into it. A lot of stuff I'm going to be talking about today is straight from the horse's mouth from their audiobook. Again, Surely You Can't Be Serious. Guys, go check it out. And unfortunately,
have you ever tried anything straight from the whore's mouth?
Yes, a few times, which actually made me realize I picked the wrong week to stop drinking, which leads us over to
I soft toss them to you and you knock them out of the park.
Knock them out of the park. Guys, today I'm trying something different I haven't tried before, and I'll lead into it with thanks for waking me up, said a urine-soaked John Daly. That's right, John Daly's cocktail that I found.
Yeah, good boy. I saw that boy. I saw it the other day in the store.
I'm actually...
Is it good? Have you tried it yet?
I don't know. Here it is. First sip.
All right, let's hear it.
All right.
That's booze. Let's go. No, it's solid tea, lemonade, and vodka. So I'm actually listening to his audiobook that came out in like 2006. And actually, I told the lady when I bought this, they come in 4-packs. So I was like, yeah, I'm listening to his audiobook. He would have drank about 10 of these.
At least, as an appetizer.
As an appetizer, man.
Appetizer.
Shadwick, man, what do you got?
Man, I'm playing it safe tonight. I got some work to do, so I'm going to try this coconut water.
Oh, okay. That's not water.
No, it's good for your skin.
It's good for your skin. I believe the last time you drank that, you vomited in one of my sinks. Leaf, what do you have?
I'm actually going to.
It was the kitchen sink, by the way.
It was the kitchen sink.
I'm gonna join Shadwick. My wife's on the cocktail train with a little bit of painkiller, man.
Oh,
that's right. I'm killing the pain.
I thought that was an ice cream cone for a second.
Did you really?
I wish.
My booze of the week is just ice cream. So just a fat ass diabetic. It's ending it all for some reason.
All right.
What constitutes as someone being pre-diabetic? Because I just saw that on my medical charts the other day.
It's blood work.
No, it's been there. No, it's been there for like 15 years.
Yeah, it's like borderline, like functioning of like your pancreas and what your sugar levels are and how your insulin is like working. So I mean, you can be pre-diabetic.
Insulin bastard.
Yeah, well, like right there at it.
Now that we've had all this wonderful talk about,
I'm not a real doctor. I don't know what I'm talking about. Someone's just like, that's not how it works.
You know what? You probably never even been to a doctor.
Never, dude. True. And I mean, we're drinking. What do you expect?
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
All right, so let's get over into Airplane.
Dude, I got the general boring ass facts, but I believe you know way more about this than I do. I can just give you the
let me start with these gentlemen here. Jim Abrams, David and Jerry Zucker co-directed and wrote this movie. What's crazy is in their audiobook, they cover where they just started off liking comedy and sketch comedy. They made their own sketch comedy show without knowing shit about anything. Decided to they were in Michigan, I believe, or Illinois, one of those. But then they just ended up being like, let's move to LA.
LA. Is that what they do? LA.
LA.
Thank you. LA.
Everything's better in LA.
LA. And they moved to LA and they just bought their own place, like rented it from somebody, like a rent to own situation, and just made their own show. And it was called Kentucky Fried Theater.
I love it.
Started honing their craft. They lived there. They were honing their craft. Like it started to become a hot ticket.
Didn't they make Police Squad?
I'm not sure. These guys made a lot of comedies like separately. Like so. This one was their second movie. They have a movie called Kentucky Fried Movie, which actually I've never seen, so I'm not really sure how good of a movie that is. But this is an actual parody, a complete parody of a movie called 0 Hour, which was the idea for this. So much so when they were pitching this movie to studios, they would bring a projector with them and play 0 Hour while pitching their movie to be like, yeah, it's going to be like this. They wanted this movie in black and white, finally settled on Paramount. Paramount said, you can make it in black and white. You're just not going to make it at Paramount. So,
so they were trying to go for like a Doctor Strange love kind of vibe.
They were just trying to go for a 70s vibe, right? They just wanted a 70s disaster movie vibe. I'll go through a lot of the trials and tribulations they got, but some of the silliest shit out of the gate, man, is there's a directors guild. I think it's called the DGA Association. Yeah. They would not let them be co-directors. They were like, that's impossible. You can't have co-directors. Because these guys, honestly, other than like, I mean, they're like, you know, a lot more funny than us and more talented. But other than that, we're basically the same. And
heavy drinking problem.
Yeah. But they said, so when they were told they can't be co-directors, I forgot which Zucker brother it was. He went and changed his name.
I think it was actually Jim Abrams.
Was it Abrams that went?
Yeah, legally changed his names to Jim Abrams and Zucker.
Yeah, Jim Abrams and Zucker. So he changed his name so when they put it in, it would be his name with legally changed. And then, but they finally appealed to the board. They had to have all these meetings, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing there? These comedic geniuses are wasting days off this shit, but they're just like shit-eating grins.
Yeah, but who's the real comedic genius here? Because the guild waited for him to change his name legally, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and let you do it."
Yeah, I know, exactly. He had to change it back. Yeah, but so I mean, they went through. There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of trial and tribulation to get this thing made. But just listen again, the audiobook. Go listen to it. It has a lot of people, even Jimmy Kimmel's in it. Keenan Ivory Wayans is in it. You know, this influenced an assload of our heroes. Jimmy Kimmel excluded. So it's just
that's terrible.
Yeah. Next time I think about eating egg, Jimmy, I'm gonna think about eating baby. You will call Malone. And people don't forget.
People don't forget.
Yeah. So, Leaf, go ahead and hit us with some boring ass facts in this, and then I'll just fill in some gaps there, brother.
That sounds good. So, tonight's movie, the 1980 classic Airplane, alternatively entitled Flying High. I didn't know that.
That was a copyright dispute that they had early on. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they originally wanted to.
It actually was an Airplane overseas. They got Paramount traded whoever owned the copyright, so they got Airplane over here, and overseas it's named some other weird shit.
Okay.
Then they have to buy the rights to 0 Hour.
Yeah, when they gave somebody the script, they were just like, I forgot what studio exec, and then he saw 0 Hour, and he was like, okay, like, this is borderline plagiarism. He's like, just wait here. You can get this movie cheap as fuck. Go buy the rights to it, and then you don't have anything to worry about.
Have you seen that one? Like,
I have not.
I wonder if it's worth checking out.
It has to be after you've seen Airplane. I'm sure, like everything, like the boxes will be checked.
Yeah,
but it's a like true to form
disaster movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those plane's going to crash and yada yada, because those were big apparently in the 70s. But all right, Leaf Man, go ahead.
American comedy disaster film written by and directed, of course, as we spoke briefly about, by Jim Abrams, brothers David and Jerry Zucker in their directorial debuts, and produced by John Davison. It stars Robert Hayes and Julie Hagerty, and features Leslie Nielsen, Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Lorna Patterson.
That's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That is, it said Roger.
It's Murdoch. What's this? Yeah, Roger Murdoch.
Roger
Murdoch, dude. And so it's this film had a budget of $3.5 million, but netted $171 million,
and that's just in box office. That thing is still they're paying bills, keeping lights on, and Paramount Plus.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, they made their money back and paid everything off after the first 2 nights that this aired.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Like that's
crazy.
And so this is what I didn't realize, man, because in our generation, Leslie Nielsen's always been funny. I had no clue he was a serious actor until this movie. And their whole idea, which we've seen it in South Park, we've seen it in Living Color, we've seen it in all of our comedies, is play it straight don't acknowledge the humor, which is what he does. He's saying outrageous shit, but he believes it, you know, and they said Leslie Nielsen was a massive comedy fan. He always wanted to do comedy, so much so that he had this little thing. They called it a fart machine, but it wasn't really a machine. It was like a little suction thing he put in his hand so it would just make fart noises. They said the thing that he did the most was he would be talking to somebody like in an elevator or something, and it would be in his pocket, and then he would just stop, and then he'd do the fart noise. And then act like, you know, just keep talking and act like nothing's going on. And he would do that to fuck with people all the time. So much so that by the end of shooting, whoever made it for Leslie Nielsen made it for all these people on the set. And they basically had to confiscate him and be like, guys, we got to fucking stop with that shit. Stop with the damn fart noises, man.
And he had, like you said, he had always done like dramatic roles. And he was starting to get older to where like he was only being offered like roles of like a grandfather. Like that, and those types of movies. So like he had to make a shift because he just didn't want to do that.
It's and even on his tombstone, man, just his there's a fart joke on his tombstone. We can look it up later and put it in post. But it's Leslie Nielsen, man, fucking
he's an
icon,
absolute legend. He also in I believe it was 1982 went on to do Police Squad after this. So a couple of years later, he was all in, which of course led to it was basically the Naked Gun television show form. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's freaking hilarious.
Speaking of the Naked Gun, I'll chime in with this just to show their sense of humor, because I think this book came out this year. But he said that they weren't very close because they were involved in the Naked Gun series, right? And he said, I wasn't very close to OJ. Just saw him at a couple of rap parties. He's like, I sold him a set of knives and never heard from him again. That's in the fucking book. I was like, still, dude, like all these years later, fucking still hitting it, baby.
Can't stop, won't stop, man.
No, bro.
Cut his fucking head off.
Yeah, no shit, man. Before we get deep into this synopsis, guys, be sure to like, subscribe. Again, if you're listening on the audio formats, hit us with that 5-star. And most importantly, tell your friends, man. They'll spread the word. The bird is the word. And so is Be Kind, Let's Rewind.
Yep. And I'm going to say it again. If you're just listening on an audio platform, check us out on YouTube because you're missing out on a lot of the clips that Chris throws in. I know it's funny to listen to it, but it really hits more if you're seeing the visual effect of it.
Dude, I have to walk through blood and bones to put these clips together, so just make sure you listen to them and watch them.
Turns out they were in northern Canada.
All right, Leaf.
Yes, but you're right, Chris. The mastery of the straight person saying the most ridiculous things in that serious tone.
Yep.
That's what I was kind of talking about earlier. I wonder if they don't make this movie and it starts that trend, we might not even have The Office.
No, man. We for sure don't have Trey Parker and Matt Stone the way we have them. We for sure don't have In Living Color because Keenan Ivory Wayans was a huge fan of this. All these things that we enjoyed, not to mention they were involved in basketball, Naked Guns, all that stuff. Like all these comedies that I hold near and dear to my heart don't get made without these dudes.
Because like Chris said before, I think it was before we started recording that this is basically just one long sketch comedy style show turned into movie form. And so the synopsis I'm about to give you, I mean, like it's just going to be the plot points are pretty thin. It's like Chris said, it's damn near 1-for-1 parody of 0 Hour, a serious disaster film.
And what I will say before we get into the synopsis is they actually, the cut that we got and the cut that we know now, they would show it to live audiences. They were timing and recording the laughs, and then they went back. And so, like, when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is, like, got the kid, and he's like, listen, punk, I bust my ass every night. Like, when he's going through that, they hold on the kid's face for a while because that's how long the fucking laugh was in the theater. So they cut this to a live audience laugh because guess what? They were used to live theater, so they want that instant gratification, that reaction live. Like, that's how they knew to play to. So that's what they wanted to do. So it's pretty interesting. pretty awesome.
Actually, that's awesome though. Like it's really awesome. And so you get the very first opening scene, right? In that same vein.
Yeah, dude, you know from this very opening scene that it's going to be a serious traumatic disaster movie. Just from those ominous tones.
Yeah, dark and ominous tones, man.
Yeah, that no one recognizes.
He'll kill the owner, but at least the dogs are happy.
The film opens with the Jaws music playing. Like automatically, and instead of the shark fin in the water, you see a tail fin from an airplane, like sort of just like zigzagging through the clouds. And of course, instead of Jaws popping out of the water, you get the plane popping out of the clouds, flying up, and then the logo airplane, and you're off to the races, as Shadwick said.
And you got when the plane pops up.
Yeah.
You can tell, like I said, last night's the first time I've ever watched it. And I was watching it on HD television. So you can tell that it's a model.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like soap suds in the foreground.
Cutting through.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's so bad.
This was, but also again, like you said, we're watching in HD because we'll get to the Saturday Night Fever scene. Yeah. You can actually see in HD the fucking wires.
Yeah, I know.
Where you couldn't back then because it's blurry and we were blind. We weren't aware.
I was. I wish I could have grabbed one of those wires and hung myself while I was watching that scene.
So that's the very first scene. The second scene begins at the airport. And we sort of get a montage of all the people that are going to be on the plane arriving, which I probably missed this 10,000 times.
I picked up the dialogue finally this last time I watched it because I just never paid attention. And it's funny as fuck.
You talking about the announcers?
The PA's going back and forth. Like I missed it as a kid, and then when I was watching it on TV, it's the beginning of the movie. You're still settling in. What's going on in the movie? You're looking around and not really listening. And when you start listening to the PA announcers, that shit is fucking funny.
Yeah. So I was listening to something today, and I didn't research this to see if it's true or not. You guys can fact check me and let me know. What I heard was that they actually went to, I don't know, American Airlines, whatever, and got the real people that make those announcements.
Really?
And it really is a married couple.
They really, so it sounds.
It doesn't surprise me because they got a lot of they reached out and got a lot of stars for cameos. They were all about that for this.
But yes, that shit was so damn funny.
It was funny.
That's actually one of the biggest laughs I got from the whole movie.
Listen, Betty, don't start up with your white zone shit again.
So for those of you who don't know, and I think this is why we missed it, because it starts out so sort of innocuous. Like you're not noticing. So the people arrive in the airport, and as Shadwick says, there's a female announcer and a male announcer, and they're talking about unloading and loading, and the people are showing up, but slowly you start to realize that the two announcing voices are having an argument. And it actually escalates as time goes by. And as Shadwick said, they're arguing first about which zone is the loading and unloading zone. And then later on,
you find out there's there's an affair and an unwanted pregnancy.
And she just says,
We both know perfectly well what it is you're talking about. You want me to have an abortion.
And he was like, it's safe and effective.
And this is out of the fucking gate, man.
This is not even like 5 minutes into the movie, and it's already just the stupidest, most ridiculous shit ever, and you already know what you're in for.
I'll tell you that was not the Atlanta airport in 1980.
Or ever. God, fuck that airport.
Right. So also you see a young girl being accompanied by her mother. She evidently needs a heart transplant, which is later one of my favorite gags, a complete setup. So all these people are coming in. There's some Hare Krishnas.
Dude, that was a thing too. I guess it's gone away in our post 9/11 airport experience. I've never been harassed by anybody at the airport.
I actually have a deep dive fact on that. I'm surprised I didn't talk about that in the book, but I can explain why, because I know that later on the scene with Robert Stack's character, which I'm not going to go into yet. No spoilers here.
1980 movie.
It actually doesn't hit as hard if you don't understand where that came from. And so I have a deep dive on that. And so moving forward, you start to get introduced finally to the main characters. A lot of the supporting characters are being, introduced like face value, but we get a little bit of plot here. First, one of the first characters you see is Captain Clarence. He, of course, is the head pilot, played by Peter Graves. He has a couple of like silly one-liners already. The verbal one-liners I'm not a gigantic fan of, although some of them, one or two of them still got me just because they're absolutely ridiculous. We've got Robert Murdoch, the co-pilot, played by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, is introduced in this segment of scenes. Ted Stryker, the star, arguably played by Robert Hayes, is introduced. He's an ex-fighter pilot who's traumatized by his past war experience and terrified to fly on a plane.
What a pisser.
He, of course, arrives, and this is later on at the very end of the movie plays a role. I don't know if y'all guys watched to the very end of the credits. He arrives at the airport driving a taxi. I guess that's his job currently, to try to win back his ex-girlfriend. And there's a guy that gets in the car. I don't know if that guy's famous or not. I have a feeling he is, that we would have known who he was in the 80s, but I don't know. Maybe Chris knows. And the guy gets in the cab, and he's like, I'll be right back. And he starts running the meter. And of course,
he just bounces.
He never comes back. And finally, Elaine, in this scene, Elaine Dickinson, played by Julie Hagerty, who's a flight attendant.
Absolute fucking sweetheart. Everything I've read about her, I know she had a nice role in one of me and Lee's favorite movies, Freddie Got Fingered.
Do you finger our boy?
Don't you get wacky on me.
She played the mom in that.
She played the mom on Just Friends. Ryan Reynolds' mom.
Yep, and she was in a bunch of stuff, but
does she always play that? Not like.
Just overly sweet.
Not ditzy, but like sweet and innocent to the point of
they said the reason that she got cast for this is that's her. And that's
she's
just
not acting.
Everybody just and she's on the audiobook, like her voice talking about her experiences, and she seems like it's like one of those people when she talks, it like warms your heart. It's just like innocence and
They also considered for this was Sigourney Weaver and Shelley Long from Cheers.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh,
I couldn't see Sigourney Weaver, but Shelley Long
I could see.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, Shelley Long would have worked. Like,
but Julie Hagerty just nailed it, and is still like as far as like her comedic timing is great, and she does.
I'm glad they went with her. I actually can't stand Shelley Long for some reason. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I feel like
maybe wouldn't give it up to Sam.
Maybe maybe it was that uppity bitch character she played on Cheers.
She was too good, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. You actually like kind of sided. So like they start to immediately, her and Ted Stryker, her character and Ted Stryker are arguing. You find out she's basically leaving him, and because Julie Hagerty is so good, you just instantly side with her. Like,
exactly.
You feel sorry for her. She's like, I've loved you. You won't leave any of the past trauma in the past where it belongs. And I've got to move on with my life. I'm getting on this plane and I'm not coming back. Basically.
You're not any good.
And he also apparently has a drinking problem, which that gag made me fucking laugh. This movie is responsible for me, and probably there are other movies more so. Yeah. But it's responsible for me having comedic timing, taking shit literal.
Yeah.
Like a double meaning, like kind of like Mitch Hedberg, it did the same thing where you know what they're asking you and you take it a different way, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like Leslie Nielsen does that shit flawless. And it was a reason like I'd do this stuff probably at nauseum at work to people, and that's why no one likes me. But it's funny to me.
Yeah,
which is most important. Don't let anyone ever control your comedy.
It's one of the things I miss most about working with you.
Yeah, that's true. Me and Chad, we had a good time.
We were just a duo of hated people.
But you know what? We were laughing.
Uh-huh.
Thanks to a urine-soaked John Daly.
So everybody begins to board the plane. There's a bunch of freaking jokes, but the main plot, of course, is Elaine and Ted Stryker. Ted doesn't take no for an answer. He realizes Elaine's trying to leave him for good. Convinced he can change her mind, he buys a ticket for the smoking section.
Like remnants of a better time.
Can we just pause for a second and talk about flight procedure in the 1980s?
I remember back in the day when you got on a plane and you knew you were in for a good time. A little smoking, a little drinking.
I think you got a drug problem.
Oh, gee, you called the captain the N-word.
Yeah.
There's a ton of jokes, but we get as Ted's trying to reconcile with Elaine, he's on the plane. She doesn't actually know it in the beginning,
right?
Exactly. That he's on the plane.
Yeah.
She meets him a little bit later, but there's a bunch of jokes with the flight attendants and the characters getting the plane ready for takeoff. There's
the gag with the when the pilots are going to two. We skipped over the nudie magazine. What is it? The whacking section or whatever that was in the magazine rack.
Yeah, what was it called? What was it? Was it whacking material?
Yeah, whacking material. That's what it was.
And he's sitting there looking at Modern Sperm magazine.
Yeah. And then when you get on the plane, the nuns looking at like Child Weekly,
Boy's Life is the magazine.
Boy's Life, and then the kids looking at Nun's Life or whatever. Yeah. Like these little fucking gags, visual gags, all through the beginning.
Yeah. So is he sitting there at the whacking material when he gets paged for the call?
Yes, that's when it happens.
So, yeah.
And it's
the white phone.
It's the Mayo Clinic, and you see the doctor with all the mayo in there, and that fucking beating heart.
Yes, that's one
flipping up and down the visual gag. Like
that's like one of the stupidest. That's one of the verbal gags that got me, because in the middle of the call of the Mayo Clinic with the doctor, there's like another call from like somebody like named Mr. Ham or whatever. Yeah. And it was like, and the Captain Clarence is like,
all right, give me Ham on 5, hold the mail.
Yeah. And I was like, I actually paused it because I was like, I don't like puns, man.
Dude, it's
God,
one of those
made me
jokes,
laugh. Though.
It's one of those jokes that makes you laugh, and then you hate yourself for laughing, so then you laugh harder.
Yes, I had to pause it because I was like, I cannot believe I'm laughing at this.
Yeah, you're kind of taken aback, and then you just like give into it.
Yeah,
like,
you're just like, you know what, fine, I'll just accept it.
That one got
me, Sherlock. But,
so all the characters have boarded the plane; they're ready to go. You're introduced to a bunch of the characters who will be in the sketch. As Chris said before, the sketch comedy. There's going to be reoccurring instances with all these characters. You see,
they're just setting they're just setting everybody up, and the black dude speaking jive. JT's a little over the line, my friend.
You know what they say? See a broad to get that booty yak 'em, leg her down or smack 'em, yak 'em.
But
whoa.
Bro,
yeah. What my favorite part of that though is fucking Barbara Billingsley is the one that that understands jive.
That's like later on when we get to it. But
I'll explain exactly why that's even funnier. And actually, that's the one thing I want to pause right before we continue on with the plot. I'm actually kind of sad because a lot of these jokes I realize have been lost to time. And if you watch this movie now and you've never seen it and you didn't, maybe you're a little younger than us, you probably won't understand a lot of the jokes. And as I was moving along, I had this sort of feeling that eventually you know, I don't know if we'll live to see it. Some of this, a good portion of this movie will be lost to time.
It will, and that's kind of what I wanted to do since I listened to the audio book. And I'd like to put a lot of this in context as we go through it for those that may not know. Like, you know, we're talking about the Hare Krishna guys at the airport. You got a deep dive on that.
Yes.
The black character speaking jive.
Yeah.
That was something that was just prevalent back then. Like it was parodied quite a bit.
So we move forward, and of course, the plane, everybody's set. The plane begins to take off, and it's just the most ridiculous thing ever.
Dude, those gags. And actually, it's J.J. Walker is
Walker.
him doing the cameo. So he pops the hood, checks the oil,
and he shows him the dipstick.
Yeah, and he's washing the windows, and then at the end, another guy like has like the credit card slider, which you don't have anymore with the old school check thing.
Like checking him out or whatever after he got his gas and all that
like
stuff.
He's paying for
the carbon.
The carbon paper thing.
My first job, I broke someone's credit card in one of those.
Because
it got
stuck and
dude. Well, that piece of metal is heavy.
Yeah, dude, you had to
you had to put in it. Yeah,
you had to put some elbow grease into sliding that thing, and it broke like a triangle out of his credit card.
Oh man!
And he was like, 65, 70 years old, and he's like, well, damn, if I knew that was going to happen, I would just paid in cash. Why would you not?
Younger people listening are like, what is cash?
Yeah, I know. Like I said, this movie, man.
But again, like I said, this used to, when you go get gas, they would fill it up for you. They would check your oil. They would clean your windshield. It was full service. So that's where that gag is from.
Yeah. So the plane does take off in the dumbest way possible. Two young lovers are kissing each other goodbye, and the plane like takes off like a train, like a World War II lovers goodbye.
Which used to be a gag back in the old movies. The train, lovers like being separated, and you run with the train to say goodbye. So
and so the plane's taking off. The guy's tossing her his pocket watch. He's like dressed like he's going off to war.
Yeah,
it's just so stupid. And the plane door is still open. He's like hanging out of the plane door, like throwing her the watch.
And I don't know if there was any meaning to it, but it was the funniest part of that to me was when he throws the watch. He's like, "No, you'll need this," and he's like, "It's okay. It doesn't work." Like I don't.
So in the audiobook, they talk about some of these jokes like this, where none of this was improv, but when they talk about what's improv, sometimes they would see some shit. They would go to lunch, and then they would be like, if we did it this way, that would be funnier. Or if he said this would be funnier. So where it necessarily wasn't the actors improving, I feel like they were definitely if they saw a better way to do it, they were doing it.
Robert Hayes said that this was the tightest script that he ever worked with.
Yeah.
He said that there was one little part, and I can't remember what part it was now, but that was the only part that they asked him to just write a couple of extra lines.
Yeah.
Just as like time fillers.
Right. And that's they were very strict on that, but I mean they knew what they wanted, and obviously comedic geniuses. So
I think that's important too, because the movie looks like utter chaos. So like Shadwick said, that's a good thing to bring up, because it shows that it wasn't like these were well timed jokes for a live audience. Even as Chris mentioned, but on screen it looks like a mess.
Yeah,
like it's happening constantly.
Well,
it's almost too intense. Which is why I feel like it did so well at the box office. You need to watch it more than once. If you're laughing, you're just going to miss so much.
So what were you going to say, Leaf, about the guy that's at the airport and he keeps trying to push whatever on people? Like,
so I have a whole thing on it that we're going to talk about later when Murdoch shows up. Not Murdoch, but the Robert Stack's character. But basically, so in the 1980s, a lot of people don't remember this. It was commonplace for people to be able to solicit you at the airport, right? Like you were able to walk up to somebody and hand them Jesus pamphlets, or one of the most common groups that was at the airport were Hare Krishnas, Like the guys dressed up
definitely
in the
parried. Which in the Neighbor from Empty Nest, one of them.
Yes.
In this.
Yeah.
Hot tub party, baby. That dude was always in some strange.
Yeah.
they had their heyday, I believe, in the 70s and 80s. You didn't see them too much after or running around after that. But I mean, it was even political pamphlets too. Like people would try to hand you just random stuff. They'd ask for money. And people hated it, dude.
Yeah, that shit, it used to like really get on my nerves until like I decided to make a game out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't always work because you have to be like fucking on your toes and quick-witted. Like whatever it is that they're trying to sell you or convince you of, you have to try to convince them of the exact opposite.
So you're debating them?
So you're just like wasting your time.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I just think that's the best way to get them to stop harassing me. Is it if I'm like, well, yeah, but what about this? Like, it's not as fun as throwing a bunch of change out in the street in front of a bunch of homeless people, but it is fun.
My favorite thing to do is when they start going into if I know the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I like to look at them dead in the eyes.
I bet that tastes good
at the top of my lungs.
Half dead motherfucker.
Pizza Gorilla lives supreme, dude. We're off and running. We're up in the air, and then we're flying through the air. And for the next 20 minutes, it's just gags. It's just nonstop gags.
Straight freaking gags.
Straight gags. An old woman asks for something light to read. She doesn't want anything really thick or too heavy. So Elaine, the stewardess, hands her a pamphlet on famous Jewish sports stars.
So this joke, they had a Polak joke that they were going to put in there. And there's a Polish association. For people that don't know, those were pretty popular back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, like dumb Polak jokes. I don't even know if I can even say that anymore, but I am. So
that's historically context, it's fine.
Correct. So they had a whole organization come to them and say this is hindering Polish youth because they have lower self-esteem because of these jokes. So the people execs were pull that joke out. And they even got pushback on this joke about this famous Jewish sports stars, and they're all three Jewish. They were like, "What in the world?" They're like, "No, we're leaving that in there because we're Jewish people."
And how is it not true? That's what makes it funny. Is there's an element of
that's what I know. That's what I mean. So it's just anyway. It's just something that was in the book that I thought was pretty funny, and to show you how we all think sometimes today. We're like. They're censoring, they're doing everything. Man, that shit's been going. It's same shit, different toilet, baby. Let's just have fun.
Now, this is the lady that's sitting next to, what's his name, Stryker, right?
Eventually you find out, because he takes his seat, and it's next to this old lady who asked for that pen. She's still holding it, in fact, when they're talking.
So I was thinking that they had already had their first interaction, right? Because he's sitting there, and he's nervous, and she turns to him and says, "You nervous?" And he goes, "Yes." She goes, "First time?" And he goes, "No, I've been nervous before."
Yeah, that happens right after the pamphlet part because he sits down and then he confronts Elaine finally on the plane. The plane's in the air. She doesn't realize he had bought a ticket for Chicago to follow her, and he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you like a creepy ex." And she's like, no. She's like, "I don't want to talk to you. Why did you follow me?" She, of course, is super mad like any normal person would be. And dejected and rejected, he returns to his seat next to the old lady. She's still holding her pamphlet. And the old lady's just like, "Oh, I see you now, why you're upset." And she gives a description of Elaine because he realizes the old lady realizes that Ted is in love with the old lady with Elaine.
Supple, pouting breasts, firm thighs.
And it starts out so innocent before it gets nasty because she's an old lady and she's like, "Oh, now I see why you're upset. She's such a lovely thing," and it just gets nasty.
Dude.
Yeah, and that's when she tries to go back to reading her pamphlet, because she's basically like, "It'll be all right, darling." And then he just launches into this diatribe, which leads into a flashback, and you could tell, she's trying to read her pamphlet, but then she's like,
"It was during the war."
She takes off her glasses and doesn't want to hear the story.
This is where executives actually did something good. So when the airplane script was written, when they were taking it to people in the studios, the love interest wasn't really prominent. Mm-hmm. And then those people were like, the audience needs to be pulling for this to work, for the movie to work.
I'm going to be real with you. For me, this movie barely works with the love story. Without it, it completely falls apart.
Right.
It's so crazy and wild. You're absolutely right.
So that was an exec. They were like, yeah, you need to. And what's great about them in their audiobook is they acknowledge that, like, they're not like, look back and like, we were right, they were wrong. They were like, they were 100% right. Like, that was because they've learned, story structure and, how to put a movie together.
So they understand the story structure, but this whole movie kind of plays like the third act of a comedy. Where there's so much shit going on at the same time.
But I mean, if you go watch any of their other movies after this, it follows 3-act structure, because you learn.
Yeah.
This was their second movie, and the first one was not a real movie because it was basically based off of what they were doing in their play, or their sketch comedy troupe or whatever. But
And so you get like Shadwick's. I 100% agree with Shadwick. Like it's absolute chaos. This is one of the only grounding plot points, because doing a synopsis for this was a nightmare for me, because I was like, dude, like the plot points are so thin. There's like 37. There's like a plot point, 37 scenes of sketches and jokes in between. Another plot point, another 28. An introduction to an important character, another 10 or 15. Hilarious sketches, and then so it feels just like an assault on the senses. And if you've never seen this movie, just prepare yourself, because as Shadwick said, it kind of almost overwhelms.
What's great about it though is, with all comedies, and why we've said it before 1,000 times on this show, that's why I love rewatching comedies, is you miss a lot while you're laughing. So then when you go back, it's like seeing a movie for the first time. Until you get to me, Leaf, and Shadwick's realm of quoting a line that was,
I'll be damned.
Like some random shit.
Damn, that's hot.
Yeah, exactly. Like a throwaway line, and then that's what you quote and say to your friends. So,
so he does.
Ted
launch into this flashback.
Shadwick's favorite scene. Ted has verbal handcuffs on this old lady. Hey, we've all been in both situations. This is something I can relate to on both sides. He says that he has a flashback of the time, or is speaking to this old lady about a time when he, in the past, where he served in Drambuie, and I looked it up. That's not all of his military references are alcoholic beverages. Drambuie is evidently like a whiskey liqueur.
That's fucking funny.
He has a drinking problem.
He did have a drinking problem, which those that don't know, haven't seen this, he can't swallow or can't drink properly. That's like
they just keep splashing it in his face.
Dumb, dude. So he recalls where he first met Elaine in a seedy bar where it's just brutal. It's a tough bar. Fights break out. He's explaining how fights break out every other night.
Two Girl Scouts are just in a savage brawl.
So that's the funniest part to me. The whole scene can get fucked except for those two girls.
Yeah.
And Chris, did you know that fight scene was so popular that they redid that shot for shot in Bill and Ted?
No, I didn't.
I think they said when he goes back to
the medieval fight.
It's when they go to get Billy the Kid. I think is when they said.
I'll have to go back and look at that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
I'll have to look at it too.
That's awesome though.
But this one is basically this boils down to a Saturday Night Fever parody, which is a timepiece for that, right? So this would, what was that one? We looked it up for the Pulp Fiction. What was it, like 77, 78, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I dare say, and I don't know this for a fact, again, correct me if you know another one. I believe, even though this is a parody, it's probably the last disco dance scene ever filmed on in theater, and that was really prevalent back in the day, as Chris said.
When was Officer and a Gentleman?
I don't know.
Was that like a disco dance, like a classic with the music?
No, it was him showing up in uniform and dancing with her.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like where you get a disco, they do like the, the old school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the point, and it's terrible. He's wearing a uniform at first, he takes it off, and he's
in the disco outfit on.
Disco outfit.
And again, we were also raised in the 80s. Disco sucks and all that, is ingrained in us. And I've never seen Saturday Night Fever, so I can't speak to that.
I'm going to tell you, I've never seen that either. But one of the things that I hate so much about this scene is they use those stupid fucking like slide whistle sound effects.
Oh, yeah. No, the Looney Tunes shit.
Oh, Jesus, I cannot stand that shit.
What
makes the Girl Scout thing so funny is he's trying to set the narrative, and he's telling this lady about like how seedy this place is.
Toughest bar.
Oh yeah, so tough. And it's like it's zoomed in close on the Girl Scout's hands. And it's like, and he's telling the story like, and then a fight breaks out. And then it like zooms out, and you see it's these two Girl Scouts just beating the shit out of each other.
And dude, they are
fucking laying it in. Yeah, dude,
it's brutal fight, man. It's brutal. Also, one of the girls has like a hairy arm for some reason.
Yeah, I saw.
I don't know
weird.
if they specifically set it up to be that way, but like, so you could see a girl's cheating. She tries to collect the money, and another hand grabs and pulls the hand upside down, and she's palming a card. So you can clearly see somebody's cheating, and that's when it instantly zooms out, and it's two Girl Scouts.
Right,
and then they start wailing on each other. And that scene goes on for a minute, and there's one other scene that always makes me laugh. So I'll disagree with Shadwick on this one. There again, this is a seedy bar. There's violence everywhere. A guy gets stabbed in the back on the dance floor for no reason. He just gets a knife stuck in his back, and he's dying, and he's thrashing around, and he's trying to point to the knife for help. And Elaine, a young Elaine in the flashback, sees him, and she thinks he's doing disco moves.
She thinks he's dancing. Yeah.
She starts mimicking him because he's like, and she starts doing this and like back and forth. And that scene goes on, and every single time that makes me laugh. It's so I like physical comedy.
That part's funny, but nothing beats like when the flashback ends and it comes back and the fucking old lady has hung herself.
Hope this hasn't been boring for you. It's just that whenever I start to talk about Elaine, I always get so carried away. I lose all track of time.
Which is some shit.
I didn't see that because I actually hung myself while I was watching.
Dude, that joke, we have done that joke 1,000 fucking times. That joke has been on so many movies when someone's telling a boring ass story and you just see somebody be like,
yeah. And then, I mean, you don't even get to see it. He's as the camera backs away and the flashback is ending and he's done telling his story, the camera slowly just like zooms out, and it's just her feet, and she's like swinging, like which is not even enough.
And he's still talking.
He's still talking. Yeah, man.
And she's
fucking
never
great.
Mentioned again. She's never in the movie again. She's dead. Like, it's just, and that's the end of it, of that particular scene. Also, there are two kids,
which actually was
another scene.
Shit stuck in our head this week, or my head this week last year.
Yeah.
We had the
was an early
kids, the two kids.
Cream? No, thank you. I take it black, like my man.
There was a parody where, like, it was, I forgot what movie it was or whatever. Like, two couples sits down on a plane, two people, and they're talking.
Yes.
They thought it would be funny to basically do the same thing but with kids.
Yes. This is something that is another time period piece, right? So this is before social media. This is before you could meet someone on a plane, and there would be romances that would happen sometimes on occasion. I'm sure this probably maybe still happens, but it was more common back then, sort of a romantic thing, because you would meet on a plane, and oftentimes that plane was connecting to another plane, so you could be going in opposite directions, but you connected on this person with in a visceral way, and I feel like that, maybe that's lost on a lot of people. And the joke is, we'll just put kids in that scenario and make them speak as if they're adults, and it goes.
And so, like, the kid, they actually had the kid, the boy in this, he was in the audiobook. And so the line in this, so the line is, this scene went on longer, and they ended up cutting a bunch of stuff just to get the movie down to, like we always talk about, that hour, that 90 minutes, 100 minutes, that's what you want for a comedy. And so the line is, he sits down and he's offering her, he offers her some coffee. She takes the coffee.
Yeah, he brings the coffee like on a tray, like he's like he's in a suit and tie, like
exactly.
Yeah, he's in a suit and she's in like a gown, like an adult's dress,
and it's like completely like proper manners. Like he stands there, he waits for her to invite him to sit down. And
he gives her the coffee, and so they took this line for line off of something else, and I think it was Abrams said that he was sitting down because the line goes, he's like, was it cream or whatever? And she's like, no, I take it black, like my men. But the Abrams wrote that. The whole line was like cream or whatever, and she's like, no, thank you. Or, no. And then Abrams one night before, like when they were writing the script, he was like, it would be funny as shit. So he wrote it in there kind of as a gag for people to see, and then it stuck. But like what made me laugh, one of the scenes taken out of this, the boy is talking about, is he said, like, one of the lines was, ever since my wife died, I really just felt like a fifth wheel. Like, so he's having this conversation with her, like, I just don't fit in anymore, and like he's talking about a wife that's passed away, and he's a kid, and there's this whole like backstory he's going into.
That's like the Ted series when
dude,
when he's like making up this fake family, and
100%.
They couldn't have kids or whatever.
So speaking of kids, there's also another young boy with his family, and he is just beside himself to go up to the cockpit and meet the pilots. Man, he's just damn it, he's excited. And so Elaine, seeing that he's so excited, does take him up, which actually was a common thing back in the day, of course, before 9/11.
Really,
you could actually go up.
They used to give you wings. They had little pins that they would give you
for the kids. Yeah, because it was like, especially if you had anxiety too, they would be like, you want to meet the captain and and see the plane, the cockpit of the plane. They would take you up there and you can meet, and like Chris said, they give you a little souvenir, and it was something that they would do a lot of times, obviously for children, that to kind of help them with the flight, especially if they were flying by themselves, God forbid. But which did happen.
What would they do for the Forrest Gump when he was a little kid? He's just like.
Okay, Jenny, and I'll mow the grass and raise the AIDS baby.
Oh, dizzy.
So Elaine takes the kid up to the cockpit, and immediately, of course, like
he meets cockpit for nothing, boy.
He meets Captain Clarence, who's pretty much immediately recognized as a pedophile.
Right. So like he's so like welcoming of this little kid to come in there, and he's like,
"You ever been in a cockpit before?"
The kid's like, "I've never even been on a plane before."
Yeah,
he's like,
"You ever seen a grown man naked?"
Ever seen a grown man naked, Billy?
That shit got me out loud last night.
But also, the kid breaks the fourth wall.
Oh, dude, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
and recognizes, Roger Murdoch.
$35,000 landed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for this role.
Yeah, and so they offered him 30, But he pushed for 35.
His agent pushed because he then he told his agent he wanted a rug.
Yeah,
like
an Oriental rug. Can you still call them Orientals?
I mean, that's what it's called, man. We'll be canceled next week. But that's so he got that's how he got the gig. And also Kareem wanted to do a comedy because he was so serious and on the court, but he's also super timid. And so that came across as like a fucking gruff asshole. And he wanted to break into Hollywood, which he did early on with Bruce Lee movies. But there was not really, I think his lines were even dubbed over in the Bruce Lee movies. But so in this, you can actually see they talked about how he was great to work with. He did everything, that they asked him to do, but you can see him reading cue cards. They had to have cue cards for him. They had to feed him line for line. That's why there's so many cuts in the scene, just because he's not an actor, right?
But that's also it's just a small line, but he does it great. The kid is convinced that he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he keeps telling him, "No, you got me confused. Murdoch. Yeah, you got me confused. Somebody else." And he's like, "No, it is you. My dad has season tickets." And he's talking about how much he loves him. Yeah. And then he starts talking about how his dad talks shit about him, and he's like, he says that you don't you act lazy or something. He goes,
"The hell I don't."
Yeah. He grabs the kid. Kareem Abdul's gigantic head. It makes the sound effect. Kareem grabs him and goes, "Listen to me.
I'm out there busting my buns every night. Tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes."
And then after he's done, he pushes the kid away. But my favorite part about this is actually probably my favorite scene next to the next time you see him. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that is. So you expect him to be like, no, he's like, "Listen, kid, my name is, Roger Murdoch." But then he looks around, to make sure nobody's watching. And that's when he grabs the kid and admits that he's actually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and goes in on him. Dude. And then when he's done, he pushes
the kid away.
Yeah. So then you've got the team up, this combination of that kind of dramatic, but also funny.
Yeah.
And then that just simmers for a second. And then the pilot comes back with,
"You like movies about gladiators?"
So actually, the actor that played him, was hesitant for this role because these are all serious actors.
You're talking about Peter Graves.
Peter Graves was hesitant for this role. His kids were in the audiobook actually talking about it, that he was hesitant in this role to take it because of that. And but once he saw the context of the movie and everything, he got it. And man, he fucking killed it. Like that, his performance, just playing it straight again, just playing it straight. It's just so funny.
I think that you guys have made me realize that a lot of these big time straight actors were part of the comedic hilarity of it, because you got to remember that people seeing this movie would especially if they were older, middle-aged, when in the 1980s when this came out, they would have recognized Peter Graves from a lot of other movies, Leslie Nielsen, a lot of these other serious actors doing this ridiculous thing. It would be the equivalent, of seeing like Brad Pitt or actors we've grown up with doing roles, doing something ridiculous, which is why that comedy with Killing Gunter with Arnold Schwarzenegger hits so hard, dude. Because we grew up idolizing this guy. He was such a manly character, and it did so many.
What a dickhole!
What a dickhole!
I'm not gonna derail the conversation, but that's the kind of same energy we're getting here with seeing someone you really watched playing serious roles, you're the majority of your life, mostly doing something absolutely, insane. And maybe that's not the best example, but y'all understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's because they earned it.
They earned it. So then you go to the lovely, I forgot, what is the other flight attendant's name? She is smoking.
Oh, hot piece singer.
Good Lord, man.
I don't remember what her
just
name
going
is.
back and watching it again, and she talked about, I guess I don't know how many movies she did or was in, but she did a great job in this too. But God, she was stunning. Just she's gorgeous, and she goes ahead and knocks out a nice little acoustic performance.
Was that her singing, or was that
no,
like a dubbed?
I think that was dubbed.
I wonder
as far as I know. But man, so they debut or they auditioned this little girl for this role. And her audition, she said it was the easiest audition. They were like, make the silliest face you can make. And so she made that like lips puckered up thing that she does in there. And they were like, all right, you got the part.
Oh,
and
man.
that's how she got it. And she said it was the chillest set she's ever been on. Like they were super nice and super accommodating to her, you know, as a kid or whatever. But this scene is fucking hilarious because she is.
We're talking about the little girl that needs the heart transplant.
Right.
Yeah. To bring it back around, the girl that I mentioned before that needs a heart transplant, that one of the stewardess decides, hey, she would enjoy a song. And since this is the 80s on a plane, you could do anything you want, include smoking, just tap dancing. It didn't matter like back then. Like it had nobody was like forced to sit in their seats. There was no rules basically for all intents and purposes. So yeah, she's going to play an acoustic guitar performance, which is in the movie for the little girl who needs a heart transplant. And she's in a stretcher, like strapped in for some reason, like on the plane. And
with an IV.
Well, they told someone, the doctor said to keep her at a certain position, right? Like
right, and
and
she's got this IV in her that's like, you know, keeping her alive essentially. And here she goes. She borrows a guitar from the nun and she's ready to start singing. And she's got a beautiful voice and she's singing. And I'll be damned if the neck doesn't knock the fucking IV out. She makes that fucking puckered face.
And
she's dying.
And is it the mom? Is it the girl's mom or a nurse or something sitting with her?
It's her mom, right?
It's her mom is with her, but the first time she doesn't notice. Not the first time. But then, so the
she's just
girl
like
manages.
sing along.
The girl herself manages to put the IV back in, which is ridiculous. And then, so she starts to come back to life. And the stewardess, she's singing, knocks with a guitar, knocks it out again. And the girl's just like dying, basically.
Dude. And it's like as that chaos is going on, so then that joke ends, and then it pans over because the old lady's dead that hung herself. And so I'll be damned. I'm glad you have it in your notes, Leaf. Old Mr. James Hong, from Big Trouble in Little China. Shout out John T. We watched this together, and John T. was like, "That's the dude from Big Trouble in Little China, right?" And I was like,
"I'll be damned."
So
James Hong, absolutely amazing actor, has done so many things. But yes, Ted, after the old lady has hung herself, has found a new victim. He's sitting somewhere else on the plane now and telling another stupid ass story / flashback about him and Elaine. And it's to a Japanese soldier or general, I think is his actual title, because he's still wearing his uniform, which is, there's a couple of funny things about this. First of all, it's James Hong, legendary actor, been in a billion different things, voiceover artist, just a crazy good actor. I believe he's Chinese. It doesn't matter. It's the 80s.
None of this matters.
He's Asian, so it's close enough. He's Japanese now. Like
dirty knees. Look at these.
Yeah, exactly. That was Hollywood in the 70s and 80s for sure.
Oh, and we're not done with the racism yet, because wait till we get to this flashback, dude. And so Ted tells a story about when him and Elaine joined like the Peace Corps.
Dude, yeah.
And they go and visit the Malumbo tribe, which is actually a tribe. I looked at it because I thought it was another alcohol reference. It wasn't. But they visit the Malumbo tribe in Cameroon, and there's just these black guys. And he was like, the way that he tells the story, of course, as Chris said, which is, par for the movie. It's a deadpan description that, the tribesmen were very wary of us, but we earned their trust. But the scene shows him like dapping down like the black guy and like
teaching him how to shake hands and then dapping him down. And then he goes, they have a basketball and there's a basketball court. And then
I started them on simple calisthenics and gradually worked them up to rudimentary game skills and finally advanced competitive theory.
And then 2 seconds later, they're fucking reverse dunking, and like shooting threes, running drills. fucking ridiculous, dude.
Of course, it's like the most racist shit ever because, like, yeah, he's trying to teach them a sports, like, teach them basketball, which I've never seen. Instantly, they're good at it, like, because they're black. And he sits down, and Elaine sits down next to him in the scene, and he's just like, I think they're getting the hang of it.
And it's just full on drills, dude. Dunking, shooting fucking.
He spins the ball in his finger like the Harlem Globetrotters.
So fucking awesome, man. But then what happens, Leaf, when they come back from the flashback after him and Elaine are sitting there?
So you literally basically get nothing from it except for that Ted's still traumatized. That's the whole point of the flashback. It comes back and Shapes Hogg has a sword and he commits ritualistic suicide, aka seppuku.
I really couldn't blame Elaine. She wanted a career.
And just like we referenced in the Ninja Turtles episode you guys saw last week. So look at Be Kind, let's rewind. Continuity, baby.
So he kills himself rather than listen to another word of another of Ted's flashback story.
He unalived himself.
Fucking this generation.
So
fucking white people.
Fucking white people.
All right.
So now we get into the I guess this is a subplot. I don't know. This is the reason they've got to ground the plane.
An actual plot point. So we're back to the actual plot now. During all this time, stewardesses are preparing for dinner, and they've served during all of this chaos. So we're moving. And we get to the next plot. So we find out suddenly a bunch of the passengers start getting sick, including the pilots. They start falling ill one by one. They're getting ill. They're throwing up. They're passing out. And Elaine, of course, attempts to find a doctor to help with all of the chaos and enter the legend himself, Dr. Rumack, played by none other than Leslie Nielsen.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I'm sorry I have to wake you. You a doctor?
That's right.
who is immediately identified as a doctor because he's wearing his stethoscope.
He's got his stethoscope on him. But like among the people that are passed out and sick, though, you have the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gag. He's got his fucking Laker shorts and shoes on as he's being pulled out of the cockpit, man. That is so fucking genius, man. Jesus
Why does
Christ.
he have his outfit on, dude? And
he was like teleworking before that was a thing. You know, you could wear shorts as long as you got the collared shirt on up top. That shit is so funny. And actually, they had a side story about carrying him down the aisle.
Yeah.
So that's like part of the stewardesses. You know, they're dragging him off.
They're dragging him, down.
And they were like, action. And the poor stewardess that was trying to pull him was, I think, the one playing the acoustic guitar. He was like, action. And she's like, I can't fucking move him. And so they had to call cut and a break, and they had to build a platform with wheels, and someone off camera was pushing on the side to help her carry him down the aisle.
How tall is he?
Well, I mean, she's basically trying to pull a predator.
7 foot?
Yes,
dude.
Yeah, he's like 7 foot, so over that. And so then they added, if you listen to the carpet scraping sound effect of like that's in there too. But yeah, man. So everybody on here,
if you listen real close, you can hear him going, anytime.
That's actually one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, as the pilots start to drop one by one, Captain Clarence is making announcements, basically trying to be like everything's fine, and and everyone's looking up and listening. And meanwhile, they're dragging unconscious pilots through the aisle, on the side. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So Captain Clarence is the last one to finally succumb, and we find out that everybody who had the fish on the plane is getting violently, disgustingly, deathly ill. They're losing consciousness.
No eating fish.
Yes, and so there's no one to fly the plane at this point in time. All the pilots had fish. They're knocked out. They're unconscious. And so as the captain loses consciousness, Elaine engages the autopilot, who was actually
has his own IMDb credit.
His own credit. Like,
no shit.
Thank you, Internet.
Do you imagine how mad some of these like actors are that have been extras in big famous movies and even had speaking roles in Auto?
So they talk to the special effects guys on this, and a lot of this shit was like it's a blowjob gag, right? Elaine's blowing him up whenever he starts to. She's talking to Control, and they're like, "Hey, you got to blow him up."
He deflates.
So so it's like a blowjob gag. And the prop guys, they were going to a break.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah, they were going to nice. They were going to damn Chadwick. Chadwick for the win. So they were going to a break, and
you know what Cinderella said when she got to the ball?
They were going to a break, and they go, "Hey, you want us to make him wink at the camera?" And they're like, "Shit, can you do that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then they were like,
"That's
hey,
what I'm gonna do." Shit.
That's what I'm gonna do. Shit. They ended up making his head spin around and shit too. Like later on, they're like, "Dude, do that too." And so like all this stuff was on set. This was like, they say it wasn't improv, and it wasn't technically, but they definitely saw better ways to do shit and did it.
Yeah, and recorded it. My favorite part about that, like, so when he deflates, the plane starts to crash, and then Elaine does blow as she's blowing him up. Like she's doubled over, like in his lap, and the freaking blow up doll like starts like nodding his head, and he's like smiling, and like and Leslie Nielsen's character comes in, and he's for some reason he's interrupted in the middle of giving a pat smear.
No, they talked about that joke too. They said, no one can acknowledge what's going on in the background. They were like, that's what's great about this movie is there's going to be these gags in the back that people will miss. And when you go back and you see like he's on a plane, there's just a woman's feet and fucking
in the stirrups. Yeah, their feet are up, and he's just like, "What the hell is going on up there?" Just some
I'll tell you the gag that I didn't miss though is when the one woman starts to panic. And the guy's like in her face, he's like shaking her, like, "Yeah, get a hold of yourself." And he smacks her. And then another person comes up right behind him and does the same thing. And then the camera pans and it's just like a whole line of people with like different weapons.
That was another one where they went to break and came back. The lady that was being shook and hit actually came up with that idea. And it was supposed to be just a line of people going to smack her, right? And apparently Leslie Nielsen fucking laid it in. She said that. She was like,
"I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself."
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone.
And he hit her twice.
He does. That's the best. That's actually my favorite part. Despite the joke where everybody's lining up to beat her as she's panicking, like Leslie Nielsen's like, "Get a hold of yourself." He slaps her, and they're like, "Please, please, doctor, I got this." And he turns around and he hits her again as he turns around as he walks off.
And so that was improv. That wasn't planned.
But what's so funny about that is we have every one of us and everybody listen has been in some kind of a public situation where there's one person like being loud on their phone or got a whiny kid or something. And every time they make a noise, everybody else looks at each other and fucking rolls their eyes and shakes their heads. And every person would get up in line to smack that bitch.
Dude.
And dude, like when it does cut back after Otto's been blown up, and fucking Elaine is smoking a cigarette and so is Otto. And she just has this euphoric look on her face.
She gives him a glance. She actually looks at him. And I'm like, this is too deep. It was uncomfortable. I don't remember that. I watched through this last time. I was like, I don't remember her looking over at him and just being like she's staring at him. I'm like, stop.
And dude, like you start to have like, this is where like you figure out Ted's the only one that can fly the plane and instantly. The passengers are freaking out. And then you have boobies, right? Like that run in front of the camera.
Dude, people are panicking. Yeah, so people are panicking and freaking out because they know nobody can fly the plane. We know that Ted Stryker flew a plane in the military, but he has PTSD. He can fly the plane, but we're not quite there yet, almost. And so everyone is freaking out because Elaine gets
push me higher, Richard.
Yeah. Elaine gets on the intercom. It's like, does anybody know how to fly a plane? So people are like sword fighting. There's two dudes fencing. People are wrecking the plane and freaking out. And so in the middle of
and that's South Park too. Rabble.
Yes,
right, exactly.
Yes. And in the middle of it, some girl runs by with her tits out, like stops in front of the camera and like shakes them and then runs.
And so for some reason, I looked, and this movie across everything that I can find was rated PG, with boobies and all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1980s.
Didn't we say, was it 16,
Beetlejuice?
16 Candles, I think, was PG?
Yeah.
And
well, Beetlejuice had a fuck in it, and they said it was PG, like the original. I don't know, man.
This shit is arbitrary. This is why Sip is stupid.
It sounds like back then people weren't such pussies.
They weren't.
It was.
They weren't. The idea of what you would put in a movie. Well, first of all, the idea of a rating system was completely brand new at this time.
True.
Nobody knew what they were doing. They didn't know what was acceptable for the general public, which I take issue with any damn way. I appreciate the fact they try to let you know what's in a movie ahead of time, but as far as you deciding what gets made, and there's a whole diatribe there about, Matt Stone and Trey Parker with how ridiculous that system is, even to this very day, and how arbitrary it is, and it still exists. It's just people's
Speaking
concepts
of ridiculous, I believe in the next scene there's a gentleman who empties a can of gasoline on himself to not listen to Ted's boring ass story.
Ted Stryker finds another unwitting victim, and this guy wastes no time. Ted starts to tell the story, and there's an Indian gentleman. I guess Indians know for lighting themselves on fire in protest,
quote
even
unquote,
back then.
like, because this dude looks a little brown face-ish, is what it looks like to me. But he lights that match for an uncomfortable amount of time, where I was worried about this gentleman's fingers as the lines are being read and stuff. I'm like, bro, get that. I know that's not real gasoline, but you're gonna burn your fucking fingers, man. Like, and this match is just slowly as Ted's telling his shit or whatever. Like,
so the stewardess grabs Ted and leads him away from the Indian guy who's about to immolate himself, but luckily, he realizes he's safe from Ted's story, so he blows up the match. But he blows up anyways.
As he walk in, you see like when he goes. Shoo, and then it does the boom cut or whatever.
And the explosion.
Just fucking ridiculous.
And I freaking love it. And so Ted realizes when he gets to the cockpit, all of the pilots are unconscious, and the autopilot is running, and the plane, and he understands finally that it's up to him. It's up to him to save the day and land this plane. And save all these people, but of course, as we know, he has PTSD from the war. So there we have the. So
you got to share you have to share your hate for this line.
Yeah,
probably the most famous line from this movie is.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah. So the doctor comes in, and he tells Ted, listen, here's the bad news. Like, you're the guy, And Ted responds, surely you can't be serious. And Dr. Rumack, a.k.a. Leslie Nielsen, looks at him dead in the eye, deadpan, and says, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. And I cannot say surely, comma, anything without some fucking mung bean actually regurgitating that line, and it pisses me off every single time. I could barely manage a courtesy laugh at this point in time.
It's always someone that only gets like lowbrow humor.
Yeah.
Like, just I'm gonna say the word, some fucking retard that just like that was the funniest thing in this movie to them. Because that's all they can. They don't have the capacity for all the cerebral humor in this.
They can't express themselves monosyllabically enough.
Yeah,
or that's all they can do.
Yeah. It's one of the most it is a funny line. Like, I remember being young and thinking that line was funny, but it's the fact that it's like constantly regurgitated by every person.
I'm with you on that.
When you're fucking 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's absolutely annoying. And I know it's probably one of the breakout lines of this film, but you get it. He says it, and there's tons of other like one-liner puns in this movie that, to me now, especially watching it back, that are just as funny, if not funnier than that one. Why that one, hit so hard with the public, we'll never know. If we did know, it'd be geniuses, because
why? I'll tell you why. It's a gateway to that pun shit I was talking about, that two-way double meaning thing. That's a gateway joke. Like, that's when you first start to get it. Like, so I got it when I was like, fucking 6. And so, like,
I probably made the pun at one point in time myself.
But that's what I mean, though. Is like you get it when you're younger. Oh, Shirley is in like the name Shirley. There's two meanings for that. Teehee, and then you move on with your life.
Yeah,
I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
Dude, I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
So back on the so Elaine radios obviously for help, air traffic control. Back on the ground, we meet Steve McCroskey, played by Lord Bridges. My favorite character.
Yeah,
for those
Jeff
lines.
Bridges' fucking dad. Somehow I didn't know until I did research for this.
Yes, Jeff Bridges' dad.
Jeff Bridges' dad.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
dude,
fucking wild.
So freaking funny, man. That guy's so hilarious. He recruits Rex Kramer, aka Robert Stack, aka the unsolved mysteries guy.
Yeah,
the guy with the creepiest voice in history.
We still have no fucking clue where this guy is.
Who knows the plane better than anyone, and it's his job to talk Ted down. And so we meet this character. I'm talking about Robert Stack's character. Immediately, it's stupid. The guy that goes to like his house to recruit him or pick him up gets attacked by his dog and is getting torn to shreds. And then there's a scene where Rex is driving to the airport,
and
but it's one of those
the green screen where it doesn't match anything that he's doing.
Yeah,
like,
back in the day,
one of the first green screen gags probably in the history where they were making fun of how bad it looked.
Yeah,
because back then they used it a lot. So, and actually that Mustang, I think they said it was a '66 Mustang.
Yeah,
I forgot which actor's car it was, but they were like, "Hey, we need to use your car." It was a car he's really proud of. So he said he got $35 a day for them to put it in front of a green screen. So he got $70.
Oh man, dude,
for that.
And this was a special effects technique used. I mean, there's in James Bond
right now,
and even right now. I just want to say, Quentin Tarantino used it. By the way, in that one scene where they're driving, and you can clearly see that it's a screen.
And I think it was a nod too. Like that was a nod to like the 70s flicks.
He 100% could have done. Could have
talking about the heroin commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Rex arrives at the terminal, and this is what I wanted to wait to explain because immediately when Rex gets to it's his job to sort of talk Ted down in the plane because Rex's character knows this particular plane better than anybody, so he can help Ted land the plane and save the day. And so he's on his way to the terminal, and he arrives, but he just immediately gets assaulted by people like handing out pamphlets, religious organizations and sects like the Hare Krishnas. At first, this is my sister's favorite scene. Like we would always laugh at this scene. First of all, he sort of like knocks them. Yeah. At first, he kind of like knocks them like out of the way. And he's kind of ignoring them, but then it just degenerates to him just beating the shit out of them. He starts punching them and hitting them, and I can imagine. I didn't see it in the movie theater. I can imagine the audience.
I'm sure they fucking went nuts. Yeah, because that was prevalent at the time, right?
Everyone, yes, hated these people. They hated being solicited, and why not? Because you're trying to imagine 1980s and before. The airport's considered a public space, a public area, and free speech laws allow people to be in public areas. You can do whatever you wanted to. And a lot of airports tried to fight this in the court of law. They kept losing. The judges kept ruling, well, this is a public space. They can do what they want. You're trying to get on a plane, and some dude is trying to hand you a pamphlet. He's like blocking your way. You're like who's been late to a flight ever? Oh, not me. I'm on time for everything.
Fuck you.
But these people were there like harassing you. Sometimes they'd beg for money, donations. They try to convert you to their religion. They would like give you political like lectures and pamphlets. They would just harass you in general. So, that went on actually until the case another case that finally launched and was upheld went all the way to the Supreme Court. The case was called International Society for Krishna Consciousness versus Lee, where in 1992, finally the Court of Appeals upheld that the airport terminal was indeed not a public forum.
Nice.
And that's why we don't or the majority of people don't remember
why
this
these
time.
jokes don't land with us, probably.
They don't land. Like, it's funny that he's beating these people up, but it didn't hit as hard because you never had to live through the annoyance of these people harassing you in the airport. Just imagine, it's like you've been harassed by a bum. Now just imagine you're at the airport, right? And it's
running
like
late.
Central Park. Yeah, running late, trying to get somewhere.
You know what, though? They just adapted with technology, because now you get asked for a goddamn donation or rounded up every time you swipe your card somewhere.
That's true.
I can
I enjoy telling them no also.
I could see the future of this
South Park
podcast.
also had a joke on that one too. It was pretty funny.
Rex Kramer finally shows up at the terminal, and he gets on the horn with Ted, who is now behind the controls, deciding he's going to try to land the plane, but he just can't deal with all of his trauma, et cetera, and like he's going to talk, but Rex is determined to talk him down. He's not taking no, obviously, for an answer. One of the funniest gags to me is like he's holding the button while he's talking on the radio, and he doesn't let it go. And when Ted expresses some reservations about not being able to do this, he's like,
"Shit, it's a goddamn waste of time. There's no way you can land this plane."
and you see Elaine and Ted just like listening to it, like over the
like,
speakers.
And also, like, Elaine is relaying everything that Stryker says, like, back to that guy.
Yes.
And like, word for word. And what is he says? It's a good thing he doesn't know I can't stand him. Something like that.
It goes
she
both
says
ways.
it. She says it to him.
She repeats it. And but so, what is Shadwick's favorite part?
Yeah, dude, because you have all these people that are starting to get sick.
They're getting sick, dude.
For some reason, the flight attendants can't communicate with the black gentleman, so they need to have an interpreter because they're speaking jive. And who comes to the rescue?
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
Barbara Billingsley, which most people listen to this probably doesn't even realize Barbara Billingsley was June Cleaver.
The mom
from Leave It to Beaver.
The mom from Leave It to Beaver, which is
Lord, I think you were a little hard on the beaver.
Yeah.
One of the most conservative women like ever.
Yes.
So that's at this point when I'm like, okay, this film's actually trolling by getting all of these like serious actors, and it is absolutely hilarious. So she speaks jive.
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
And am I remembering this correctly? Was she wearing the same like 50s style dress that
it
wore?
Yeah, it looked like
it to me.
Yeah, it looked like it. And she fucking nails this, by the way.
Yeah.
Then what does she say when she's walking away? Like,
she calls him a jive ass turkey.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains anyhow.
Yeah.
She said
that shit, dude.
You think she was just like, the kids are in bed. Ward, you want to come take care of the beaver?
Yeah.
Ward, I think the beaver needs some attention.
So Ted being coached by Rex and of course McCroskey and the team on the ground, they face increasing pressure as the plane approaches the runway. Of course, meanwhile, the chaos still reigns among the passengers who are getting sick. Some that aren't sick are panicking. They're freaking out. We get more sketch. One of my favorite scenes, one of the passengers takes a swig from his whiskey flask.
Dude, by the way, what a massive fucking flask that was.
It was gigantic.
Dude, it fit in his fucking pocket. I need to get a suit like that, and I need to get a drinking problem.
This is like almost like a freaking military canteen. It was massive.
he asked the nun. She's like, "Man, do you want to drink?" Because like they're assuming they're all gonna die, right?
She's a prude old lady, and she was just like, you could tell she was watching him drink alcohol.
Yeah,
and she's like disgusted. And he was like, "You want to sip?" She was like, "Certainly not." And she like turns around and lifts up a glass with 2 lines of cocaine on it, and freaking just
She did a little bump. You never do blow before? Sometimes your heart stop. It's not back.
Read a book.
Yeah, read a book. Jeez. That joke right there, dude, is classic fucking 70s. Like that, I bet that joke was never made.
Elaine is reminiscing about how much fun that she used to have with Stryker.
It's during one of the scenes. We probably skipped it, but it's around this time. At one point in time, yes, Elaine does have her own flashback about, and so that's the idea. Plot wise, before Chadwick tells the story, she's starting to slowly miss Miss Stryker, and she, she's realizing, man, I really did love him. We had some good times. Starting to have second thoughts, maybe about breaking up with him, but she does have her own flashback.
Yeah, and she's having this flashback while talking with Stryker, so she's narrating her flashback. But like she's talking about all these, like, the quintessential romantic things that couples do or whatever, and she's like, and her like sweet innocent voice is like,
how I used to sit on your face and wrinkle and
fucking
I was
genius.
So like I said several times, last night was the first time I've watched this movie.
Yes.
And I was working on my computer, had it playing kind of, I could see it, but I had to look up. When she said that, I just stopped. I was like, did she just say that? I had to go back.
It's one of the things you do miss, because it's in the middle of a lot of lists. She's like, we used to take long walks on the beach and we do this and that time, and then I would sit on your face and wriggle around. And then she's like, and then we would go to like restaurants, and she just keeps going, and it's just tossed in there. And like most of the performances in this, it's just these deadpan descriptions, but the things they're saying are so messed up, man.
Dude, yeah, it's so funny, man. And so you also get after this, like after the 2 lines of coke, the nun trying to play fucking Aretha Franklin's Respect on the guitar
to the black
dude.
R-E-S-P-C-T, find out what it means to me.
He's just getting sicker. And then you finally get like the Leslie Nielsen fucking win one for the Gipper speech, right?
And he plagiarizes the speech word for word.
Yeah, word for word.
Look it up, the win one for the Gipper speech. It's literally plagiarized because Ted he's at his wit's end. He doesn't think he can overcome his trauma from the war to land the plane, but this turns it around. And of course, we all Dr. Romack as Ted goes back into the cockpit to land the plane, his strength and his mental fortitude renewed. We also remember, you can go ahead and play the clip again, Chris.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
And so
Chris is like, you don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah, nope.
So back on the ground, Rex begins to talk Ted down for the landing. And
and I know we totally skipped over his character because like when they're starting to land, the lights go out on the landing.
Yes.
Which they said was a clip they watched because they wanted stock footage of a plane landing, and one of the landing gear or the landing lights went out on one. And so I think it's Steven Stucker is the actor's name.
Believe so, yeah.
So that guy was on Kentucky Fried Movie with them. And he is fucking hysterical throughout this entire movie.
Yeah.
And he's the one that like looks at the camera and he's like,
just kidding. Yeah.
And like plugs the things back in.
He's like a token gay character.
So he came up with the joke. They said, well, what if like, because he's the one that handles the press conference, and they're like, well, what kind of plane is it? And he's like, well, it's like,
oh, it's a big, pretty white plane with red stripes and curtains in the window and wheels, and it looks like a big Tylenol.
Like, and he's like, he wrote that joke on the phone with them, and they were like, hey, the press are going to ask you this, like, what would you think? And he's just like, verbatim, they just wrote it all down. Like, he came up with that line on the fly because he's like, he plays piano, super talented fucking dude. But yeah, Steven Stucker,
you know what?
Genius.
That's funny because there's a real like UFO sighting from a Navy ship, and that event they call the Tic Tac event.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I always thought, what a fucking weird. Like, I know it's a similar shape or whatever, but Like, that's what you're going to go with? And then you throw back to this, and it was a Tylenol. I was like, I wonder if they did that on purpose.
On the purpose, yeah, it's like a thing. But anyways, yeah, we we only have so much time on this show. But yeah, Steven Zucker.
That guy's
podcast.
That guy's performance was amazing. Yeah, and he constantly has multiple verbal one-liners throughout the entire movie. So he was exceptional.
Hey, let me rewind that. Steven Zucker died in 1986. Don't sponsor our podcast, I guess. Damn it. Anyway,
so he's
through the foundation.
Through the foundation. Anyway, Steven Zucker, super talented fucking comedian.
R.I.P. Yeah,
baby.
Amazing. As Chadwick would say, he's dead now. Despite so they start to bring the plane in for a landing. There is another quick joke about disco that they had obviously in the beginning, the disco dance, and it was so goofy. Yeah. There's a disco, the plane's coming in too low, and there is a WZC whatever is playing. He's like, and you hear the DJ's like, where disco never dies, and the plane crashes and like breaks the antenna, and so they're kind of roasting disco there, a little bit, because at this point in time, as Chris mentioned,
Disco's
it's dead. It's losing popularity.
Yeah, the landing gear comes off, but anyway, they come to a fucking sliding stop.
They crash land the plane.
But by the way, like Ted, that gag with the sweat makes me laugh every time, because it just increasingingly gets like, first it's just kind of mist on his face,
it's
then
like
you see like a couple little bit
droplets.
And then like it's like a full on like
I didn't think that was funny.
Dude,
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny, and you know what else? Like the meme of it.
Who sweats like that,
dude? I
probably, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
The
Chadwick's life. He's like, what's funny about this? Is he's like on his treadmill.
I'm just a little dewy.
Yeah,
dude,
just a little moist.
I'm trying to tell you right now, dude. Like, I get that meme of Ted Stryker with sweat pouring down his face probably 10 times a year from random people, being like, because it's it's a vibe now of people sweating to the point of just like they're nervous, like it's an intense moment. And so that happens, but the plane does indeed land despite all the chaos. Everyone survives. Ted is redeemed. He's a hero. He and Elaine rekindle their romance. Of course, as they walk away, never for a serious moment in this film, and the inflatable autopilot just inflates himself and takes off with the plane somehow, even though it's missing its landing gear. No wheels.
Dude, it's auto. He has his own IMDb credit.
And he has an inflatable girlfriend.
What do you want from him?
He has an inflatable girlfriend who didn't get a credit, by the way. Sexism, ladies and gentlemen.
Hollywood.
And that is the end of the movie, despite the post-credit scene in which it cuts to the cab that Ted left at the very beginning of the movie, and there's the guy still waiting.
Well, I'll give him another 20 minutes, but that's it.
So, to your point, is this the first post-credit thing?
I don't know, but it's has
1980. It's the first one I can remember.
There couldn't have been one before 1980 on a post-credit scene. There couldn't have been.
So this is how the movie ends. And one more thing that I'll add, because there's a big scene in the very beginning, right, where the plane crashes through the window.
Yeah.
That was practical effects. So I found out that was the most expensive shot scene in this movie, where they had to mount a model of the front of a plane on like a flatbed truck, but they had to make it was the first time they used tempered glass in Hollywood. Because breakaway glass would have fallen from that height. It still had edges, so if it had fallen on anybody, they were like, it's going to act as a guillotine. So it was the first time they used tempered glass because it shatters so fine that all the actors and shit would be okay.
So I thought that was
a model?
Well, no, not a model, but I thought it was shot separately. I thought the crowd running from it was...
Nope, it was all one scene. They had one take. They had, I forgot how many stunt people...
Damn.
Yeah, man, that was one shot.
I don't know about that.
So I'm saying what's funny about that scene too is it's the most expensive. It's a throwaway joke.
Dude,
in the very beginning,
they shot it last, and they said the only thing about it was they had a cool because it was one of the last ones they shot. They had a cool staff shot in front of it. So after it's done, they take pictures for the movie. It's like all the actors and shit. There's a picture out there of them in front of this fucking scene of the whatever. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, those who have not seen this movie, it's on Paramount Plus if you have the Showtime edition, or if you just have Showtime anyway. If not, man, this movie, if you are a fan of comedy and you want to know where your heroes came from, go watch this. This is fucking amazing.
My encouragement is watch this, have some drinks, do whatever it is you do. Legally, of course, don't be like the old woman in the movie with the lines, but enjoy it. Like, get loose and get
ready. You to tell people what to do or not to do.
Obey your laws, your local laws. My point is get loose and just get ready just for some absolute nonsense. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, you have forgot. I assure you, you've forgotten everything.
A ton.
It's different.
Get loose like that beaver.
We didn't even scratch the surface on all the jokes in this, man. But so again, guys, if you're digging what we're doing, hit us with the 5-star on the audio stuff. Hit us with the like and subscribe. And as always, more importantly, spread the love, baby. Let's get this community going. And with that, guys, we'll take it over to our Norm Macdonald clip of the week.
And in a touching Valentine's Day gesture, a man gave his wife one of his own kidneys. Terrified, she dropped the kidney and ran out of the restaurant screaming.